Wonderful.
Okay. Welcome back to another episode of Runky's Room, the podcast that I, your host Runky, do usually from my room, because where else would I do it? But in this season 2, I'm answering the question, where else would I do it, by doing it anywhere other than my room. It makes more sense if I say it when you've watched all the episodes and like just kind of...
Yeah. It makes sense after that.
Okay, well, I'm so happy to hear that. Today I have some very special guests, one repeat guest, and one...
Sorry. Shouldn't interrupt the host.
And one brand new guest. So I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves. Quentin, why don't you go first?
Hi, everybody. I'm Quentin.
Runky's brother.
I'm Runky's brother.
If you've
been watching Run for a long time, you might remember me from season 1. I'm back for season 2. I'm known mostly for being president of WM B.
An esteemed, powerful, large,
Thank you.
It's more about cultural.
Wow.
We're a wave of the future.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm Graham. I'm the captain of said WM B. So I've been Quentin's friend for like 2 years now, and 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly like I became in October of 2021. So we met.
Your anniversary is coming up.
Oh my God, it is. Well, we met before that.
We met in September of 2021, I believe.
I only really knew you.
October.
You knew
I mean, I thought you were like very
Sporty. I don't know. I judged you really right off the bat.
I mean, I think we all do that.
Yeah.
And I in some ways.
Well, I thought you were sporty and not interesting, which I was wrong about.
Wow, that's so sweet of
Yeah,
you.
you're being really bold right off the bat, and that's something that I really value in a podcast guest. So thank you for
You're
being
welcome.
so candid. I have a question. I have lots of questions, but one that's been really heavily on my mind is you're captain and you are president. What's the difference?
You want to take this?
Quentin does all that actually matters for our organization, which means he does everything. He does everything. From coordinating with the club athletics department and setting up our home tournaments to coordinating with the other teams that we play in tournaments across like Virginia, and we've even been to North Carolina.
Going back again, maybe.
Huh?
Nothing.
Are we going back again?
We might be.
Again?
We might be.
Not this semester.
Not this semester.
I would like it. Yeah. And getting to stay over, it's like a team bonding thing.
We're getting derailed a little bit.
That's what we love here at Runky's Room.
Okay.
And he sets up all of the. Can I put my arm back here?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
right now I'm
yeah.
just like sort of closed off.
No, that's fine.
He sets up everything that's administrative. All Keegan and I do. Keegan is our co-captain. I think.
He
He has another episode coming out soon. I don't actually know what the order is. He will be introduced.
They haven't even heard of us.
Wow. The movie magic.
But Keegan and I just like literally come up with what we do at practice and then decide who is going to like play at what time during games, like tournaments and stuff. We don't like, we have no administrative capacity. I mean, we are exec members, so I guess we vote if there's like a question that's like important. We've never really had to have many exec votes.
Yeah.
I think you're being a little
little too humble.
because Graham and Keegan both do a lot of interaction.
Even if I do most of the matters in terms of like administrative stuff, Graham and Keegan are the ones that are like in charge when we're spending most of our time together. So, in that capacity, I think your role is very important.
Thank you.
And also, key thing that the captains do that's administrative versus me is deciding who our new members are every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is probably the toughest part of being a captain. At least like the toughest one. Because every year we like fate. Like I didn't like really choose to start playing, and I think like it's very well. I did choose to start playing, but
I know. I really want to know more about that statement. Like,
I think we're all volleyball
so
players.
I hadn't played volleyball at all before high school, and I was in my freshman year, and I didn't try out my freshman year either, and I was like, it wasn't even on my radar. It's not like huge where I'm from. I'm from like Central Virginia. Yeah.
It's not Virginia.
It's huge. And then on like certain college campuses, other places.
The third biggest sports club.
Yeah.
Or second, actually, now I think this year.
But it's not like that big of a thing where I'm from, and I tried out for the basketball team at my school my freshman year, and I didn't make it.
rip.
And I was very aware that I was not tall enough or talented enough to probably ever play on varsity for my high school basketball team. And my high school basketball team was bad. So that says something about me. And I knew it wasn't good enough. I was actually pretty good at high school. Like state
I see.
So I was like, I need to play a sport because I love sports, and this is going to be the end of my athletic career before I even finish high school if I don't do something. And I had a friend who had played basketball and baseball with me for a long time. This is Jackson.
Oh my God, it is?
No, it is Jackson.
I just felt that it must be Jackson. The way you said friend.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Jackson.
No, yeah, Jackson. Jackson and I are friends going back. And he had played try out the next year, and I made it. And I actually played at school, but it was like I tried out not as like a joke or anything. Like I definitely took it seriously, but I didn't have any expectation that I would make the team because I had never picked up a volleyball before.
Those are always the best things, are the things that you do like with zero expectations of like winning. Because look at you now. You're
Winning all the time.
You're in one of the most premier club volleyball B teams.
If
we're talking about Virginia,
Absolutely.
Okay. Relative to school size, we're the best B team.
oh,
Easily.
by far.
So, for those of you who don't know, the WM Volley B culture, the cult even of personality,
Some might say,
surrounding the William & Mary men's volleyball B team, it is something that people yearn for a glimpse of. It has this energy and this aura that people really crave. And I want to understand what that is and where that comes from. That's really, I want to talk about volleyball, obviously. I think volleyball is a fascinating sport, and there's a lot that goes into it. But really, the meat of what I want from you two while I have you here for this dedicated moment is to understand, what the magic is of the B team. And do you think that the B team had this kind of, magnetic community aspect to it before you came along, or is it something that this unique group of people, this cast of characters that you have now has brought together, or is it inherent to William and Mary's B team?
can I ask you a question? About your question. Did you know?
No.
Okay.
Tell me more.
The answer to your question.
Yeah.
So when I and Grant tried out, it was Grant's sophomore year, but my freshman year was COVID ridden. So I didn't sports clubs. They were kind of operating, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a like real first year back for a lot of people in sports clubs. And it was a record turnout year at the time, which we've broken. Going in. And the A team at William Mary is very relative to our school size. At the time, they weren't quite as good, but our A team is very strong. And they were only taking 5-ish people out of the maybe, I don't know how many people actually tried out, but it was
like 60 or something.
60 or so.
Wow.
It was at least 50, I think.
Graham was good, but I wasn't. And so he did a few other
Gotcha. Yes.
And after the tryouts, the president of the A team at the time was like, sorry, we didn't expect this many people. We can't really have this many people, but we would love for you guys to be able to play. So if you want to go talk to the sports club coordinator and set something up, you can. And really Campbell and I, but there was another guy, Matthew, at the time who isn't around anymore, were like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds fun. Like it's like a project to work on. And then over the next few weeks, we founded the B team.
Wow. Did you know, did you have a sense, like, deep in your heart when you were going through the administrative process of founding the B team that it would become what it is today?
Campbell is a very dynamic person and energy. So it was clear immediately that this was going to be a thing. And that combined with like how much we all were really itching to get involved with the club because many of us were just kind of cooped up the previous year.
Right.
Really gave us a lot of energy and a lot of motivation to like really invest in the team.
Gotcha.
Also, a lot of us hadn't played volleyball before. Graham had, but many of us hadn't. So a lot of us were just really excited for sport. So we got practice slots. The first round tour. We have 4 again now, but at the time, people's schedules can make it chaotic. So we just, when you're spending 4 afternoons a week doing something, it's really easy to get really invested in it.
For sure.
Would you say that the underdog story of the William, you had no legacy of having a B team to rely on. You were building this up from scratch. You were really pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Would you say that the fact that it was an underdog story contributed to the WM Volleyball persona and the image that it has today, or is the WM Volleyball identity something newer and richer than that? Is it independent of its beginnings?
That keeps me up at night.
Really?
Like what this team will be like once the core founding members have moved on.
Yeah.
Is something that really puzzles and challenges me. I think that our beginnings are certainly important. And I think that the part of the reason play volleyball because it wasn't an decision because I was in a new place. I didn't anybody except me. I knew Keegan was going to be going to practices, but I didn't really know anybody on the team. The team was actually mostly sophomores.
Yeah. A few juniors.
Yeah.
And
it was kind of like, am I going to commit my time to this? And as someone who has played on, when I played at travel, I played objectively bad. The culture on those teams was broke. It was you can be culture, or you can be like a losing culture and lose. The teams that I had been on were losing cultures, where there was a lot of ego, there was a lot of vitriol between players, rivalries, and like I I don't want to join a team that's gonna like mess up my mental and like be something that takes a lot of time away from me and without much reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's the high risk, low reward type situation.
Well, I think like a lot of us didn't even. So it's interesting because you, I think, had the most different perspective out of anybody on the team at the time, because you were the one that was coming from a background of having done something similar before, not in creating a team, but in like actually playing on one.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of us were like, we didn't know how college sports were played. We just wanted to play. So in that sense, we had no expectations. But our big ambition at the time was to be better.
Yeah. I think that still might be an ambition.
It is still an ambition. As the years go by, it's like I sort of understand what being better at the sport means. And at the time I didn't really. I just thought if we just grinded enough hours a week, we'd be better. And that's not really how it works. It's part of how it works, but I think it's more than that. But also, I think part of what I think about now versus in the beginning. I thought about it a bit. Especially because ultimately there are times when you have to make a decision about whether or the strength of your team is more important. Yeah. Especially like when you're taking, because if you have somebody come in that has a really bad attitude, but is a really strong player.
Right.
The way of like, there's more than that, just decisions like that. It's just a really obvious one. But the more, as time has gone on, I think more and more about the culture, and that's a bigger priority for me. So my goal isn't really anymore to be better in the A team, although I do, train a lot and try to be the best like me. But
You look like you have something to say.
I think to get the question, I think that tied in with those, like inherent to like those low expectations and stuff, the difference between a team like ours and a team like the A team is that like part of the reason why we initially didn't make the A team, or like a lot of the players that we've gotten have been players that didn't make the A team, and so they chose to go with us. It's because I feel like when you are an athlete for a really long time, you develop a certain mindset.
The rejects from the A team.
We didn't hit exactly the right way. We didn't do whatever we needed to do on the court exactly the right way. But we had a great attitude about it. And like I think that's how you get selected for the B team. I mean, I think that we haven't selected a lot of players who we thought, they're good, but we don't really like their attitude or like how they're carrying themselves and like how they speak to other people. I think we've chosen people, not players.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
A lot of the time, you're right. Like the people that join our team, like the people with really crisp form and who are just like standout athletes are always picked up by A. We almost never have anybody come in. We occasionally have one or two come in that way.
Yeah.
But they're almost always picked up by A. So what happens is you get a lot of people with potential or with some skills, but things are a little weird or a little like they aren't working quite right.
Yeah.
And even more than just us choosing, there's this natural force of people they can play on the team, or they can not play ball. And the people that aren't that good, but still want to work enough to play volleyball are the people that stay on our team.
Right.
And that's why everyone that's left is kind of this like really dedicated, a little bit weird group.
Yeah.
But like it requires a lot of dedication from the beginning to like not to make the A team or to not make the A team and still want to play. So I think that's a big part.
Right, and that means that the people who maybe like have a really big ego about their athleticism just don't end up becoming part of the community at all.
Yeah,
They choose to
Good enough to like athletic enough, talented enough to be on our team, and they chose not to like come to the first practice or to respond to our emails or like whatever, or they responded in a way that they said like, oh, I'm gonna look elsewhere,
which is fine,
which is cool. Like we don't have a problem with those people,
Yeah.
but it is kind of a self-selection situation.
I feel like that maybe even contributes to the like what I was asking about, like what happens to the culture once the people with the like memory of its underdog founding like are gone, is that it maybe just is a constant like cycle of refreshing itself to have new players who are they're underdogs in their own way by virtue of being rejected from the A team, but still having that like that, because I think really the drive of any player who loves volleyball so much that they will take being rejected by the A team and still want to be on the B team. Like that energy and whatever is driving them to do that is, I think, what drove you and Campbell to found the team in the first place. And in that sense, maybe the spirit of the B team is constantly renewing itself with each new batch of players again.
Yeah, it is. And that's like, there's two cycles. That are the first one is where we always get this group of like people with potential, but who are also really dedicated to like, what's that word? Like achieving that potential, right? Fulfilling. Yeah. And then the other cycle, and this is like that's the beauty, right? That's the like light side. The dark side is that ambition that those people have can also take them from us. Because you'll have players who hard and got a lot better, and now they can make the A team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have to make a decision every year to whether they want to stay on B or whether they want to move up to A. And so there's this kind of curse where every time we really invest in somebody and like work with them a lot, give them a lot of playing time, really make them a part of the community, the more we do that with somebody, the less likely we are to see them again.
Wow.
But it's this balance because we want to do that.
Right.
But, this happened really sort of like recently it's happened with two of our players where we just invested a lot parts of the community, but they got really good. And so they both tried out for A. One of them made it, one of them didn't.
Well, in the original example, it happened last year with Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob is a middle who started out on our team. Awesome guy. He's back with our team this year. We're so happy to have him. And a pretty integral part of the culture. Definitely socially active, like at the social events, etc. And he moved away to our team. Because he got so bad. It was nice though, because we still have student social events and stuff like that. But it is not really something to look earlier with when you're practicing 3 more times a week. That's when you get to know them and in the dinners afterward and stuff like that. So it's tough to lose players like that.
It's almost like watching a child grow up and move away.
Yeah.
There's this other weird part about it though, where the exec aren't allowed to try out because it's a position that you get for the calendar year starting in November. So if you are an exec member of the B team, you can't try out for A team. So like there are times when Graham and I have been asked to practice. And by choosing to be, he kind of gave up that. So it's like, it's a weird thing where no matter how hard we train, we're always going to play on B.
Yeah.
But for the other player, like that puts us in a position where we have to watch people leave all the time as well.
Yeah.
That is that we choose.
Yeah. It's a choice. It's a deliberate one.
You're the shepherd of people's journeys. There's something beautiful about that.
I agree.
You were saying about like the kind of people that make it onto the B team because they're maybe not the people that are always hitting like the perfect shots or whatever. That begs the question. I don't really know that much about volleyball. Like I can watch a match and enjoy myself. Mm-hmm. Like I know that much, but I don't really know specifics or like the nitty gritty. So that statement made me wonder, like, how creative is volleyball? As like, do you look for creativity in your players, or is it preferable to have someone who is maybe more reliable or more by the books? Like, where does volleyball lie on that spectrum?
You answer this, you want me to? Answer this, you want me to?
I think we
That's a good question.
That's what I'm here for.
After playing, get a sense of like how long a player is almost instantly. Like that can move for like two hits, if they're a good hitter or not. And volleyball is a sport where there are times where you just have to be able to hit the ball accurately and hard. And like being able to do that consistently is extremely important.
Yeah.
But it's also a sport where you're put in weird positions all the time, and being able to work in those positions is also really important.
Weird isn't like physically
and like exactly. And the fingers are stretched more or less, you know. Yeah. So it's an interesting question. I think in general it's a fairly rigid sport. But more so than being creative, it's more about being flexible and being able to adapt. I think that's something different.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I think there are certain aspects of volleyball that are very rigid. There's certain things with blocking and hitting that you sort of like just drill over and over. But I think what's interesting is like other sports, the way you like position your defense, that you put on the floor can be very different, depending on like the personality, what trying to maximize. Like if you're running a 5-1 with one setter or a 6-2 with two setters, or like who you're deciding to drop back to pass, whether you're bunch blocking or not. There's a lot of decisions involved, definitely, and you kind of have to come up with creative solutions that require you to know yourself and to know the players on your team, and to know their mentals as well. They're struggling at passing, and then you drop someone to pass for them, or something not to pass for them, it can go very poorly. It can mess up their mental. And I think another thing, like where creativity comes in, is like learning. It's kind of like learning what you're capable of through a kind of a creative process. So like when I go up to hit, I've had to learn like which ways my arm like swings well and doesn't swing well, just through like trial and error.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, what if when I've started recently, you probably noticed. And that's something that like I've seen other players do, and I've thought like, how would that apply to my body? So it's in some ways, but like Quentin said, there's a lot of structure to it, in as far as like the footwork and stuff like that.
That's really interesting. I like what you said about how like you do have to do a lot of self-exploration in those creative moments, which brings me to a question I had prepared, which is, what has being on the B team, whether in the like social like team sense or in the actual playing of the game, what has your years on the B team taught you about yourself?
I gotta think about that. Okay. We can both think about it if you do too.
I think I have an answer that I can start with. I think it's taught me having a structured community. Like I feel like when I graduate and I go in the adult world, having a league that I play with other people, just weekly or something would be very helpful for me. Also, just that physical activity in general, I guess. Physical activity is very helpful for my mental health. I think that WM Volley B has been something that has kept me really centered and anchored. Having like practices at a set time, and to have these like social experiences during and after practice, especially after practice, like getting to go to CAF, and like I might be having a bad day and we might have just had a terrible practice, but we go to CAF and we hang out and we talk, and it like is a nice conclusion to the day. A lot of time. Or even someone that's research. Because having had that experience, be active and be around a lot of people, and that I social can be really important to how like the rest of my night goes and how my day goes. So
I am no closer to an answer.
Yeah, I've been a heavy hitter.
I'll talk while you plug that again. I'm just gonna ad lib about this. So interesting, like how has this experience affected how what I've learned from it. But I feel like it's separating my life and volleyball, and kind of being like, what did volleyball give me in my life? Doesn't really feel right. Like almost my whole experience has been defined by it. And honestly, I spend more time thinking about playing and engaging with people related to volleyball than the rest of school.
Right.
So like, it's almost like just a life thing rather than like an experience that I've like learned from. I've definitely learned a lot from it, and I've definitely like taken things away from it. But I guess I just want to highlight that it's like it just kind of is. It just kind of is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's also like hard when you're in it to know how it has changed you. Like for me, my thing was dance. Like there was going to be an episode about this, and then the file corrupted and it's gone. So you might hear more about that eventually. But I was a dancer for like 10 years, and I was really into it, and I competed, and I did it. I mean, it's the same kind of thing where like I spent a lot of time really intimately with people in a social setting, like doing this thing. But I quit. Like I very abruptly, in the middle of my senior year, I quit. And had the opportunity to like look back on it and see how it changed me. And it like, instead of thinking of myself like as a dancer, I kind of had to wrestle with like, if I'm not actively like on a company, am I still a dancer? Or like how, in what way was this part of my identity? So I think it's kind of hard to know, like, while it's still happening, and while it's still such a big part of, like, what you think about on a daily basis, to really know, like, you haven't quite come out on the other side of it. And I don't know that you ever will. Like, it's kind of a lifelong journey to be, like, a player of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like, I do reflect often on it. And I've had breaks where I'm able to like kind of look back, if that makes sense. Like for example, at the beginning of last year, I had spent a lot of time this summer before really training, and like I exercised a lot. I went into the gym like every day, the volleyball gym every day, and just like I was really dedicated. And then in doing so, I injured myself pretty bad. Where I had like a cartilage injury in my chest, which takes forever to heal, because cartilage is not like a muscular thing. And that was like honestly my lowest point in college.
Wow.
Because I had just like, I felt like I invested so much of myself and like my break into this like specifically for this one thing, and it's just like all gone instantly.
Absolutely. It's really tough.
And I think it's the thing a lot of athletes have to deal with, where they like get injured or they get some like they get dropped from teams.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I've had to deal with this. But in that moment, I was like, why is this such a painful experience? Like, what is the team to me that like because I was still with the team. I just sat there and worked instead of playing. And in those moments, I think that's enough of it.
Yeah.
So that kind of like makes me wonder, like, because I know you had some breaks from dance. Do you feel like you got to reflect in those moments, or was it only after you left?
I think it was like I would reflect, but it was kind of focused on like the show I had just done, because the breaks were always followed. The breaks always follow the show, so I would be really like digesting that specific experience and not like my role in its entirety. But it would come up kind of like this, and this is something that I've like really had to deal with since then. I would feel really out of practice. Like I would feel physically really like tight, and like I would be really paranoid about like forgetting things. And then once I did draw that hard line of like, I'm not doing this for at least another like 6 months, that was when I really had to wrestle with the fact that like my body's gonna change and I might get less strong and less flexible, and that's something that I have to accept. And like my technique is probably gonna go away, and like why does that matter to me if I'm not anticipating joining a company or being a professional? Like, why does that still bother me if it's not actually going to anything? And it's because I had like identified so strongly with being a dancer. And so those things would maybe begin on my breaks from dance, but I never had a break long enough or as like indefinite enough to really like let it sink in. So yeah. And also like I didn't think about things like after they and my life just moved fast. Like,
Sometimes there's luck.
Yeah, it's like the break is like Christmas. And, like I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I definitely agree with that.
Okay, lit. What's the worst part of volleyball? What's your least favorite thing?
Of this bet, like WNBA, or both.
Whatever speaks to you.
How mental the game is, I feel like that can be like really difficult in a game that's so focused on the team and how the team is going. I think it can be really, I think like honestly some of the lowest moments of my life.
Wow.
Like if you reach that absolute zero with your team, I have felt like crying on the court before.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's happened on our team more than once. People cried on the court.
Yeah, because connected web of people who like really care about the sport and really care about each other. And I think there's a lot of feeling that you can let people down. And that because it's a game of like you just kind of happen to be the person that has made like a couple mistakes in a row. It can get really difficult to deal with. Like, that was very much something that I did that cost us the game. I feel like it's not always like that in other sports.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're doing like a solo sport.
Like everything you do is your fault.
Yeah.
You're the only one.
Other people's like dreams aren't riding on your back the same way.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I think that people, the ones that typically stick with them, like learn to come to terms with, the like evaluation system that's not that. Hopefully, if it's in a healthy way, their performance is not going to be
Right.
Whereas with like a team sport, with volleyball, even if you don't conceptualize your performance as part of self-evaluation, you might feel as though you're evaluating other people on the team can go down. And not that they're not going to like care about you or that they're like, we're not going to be a community. And I think that that's one thing that's really strong about us is that we don't do that. We don't push people away because they're bad, like just because they perform poorly.
Right.
But I think that in that moment, you have that idea that like these people, I'm letting these people down. And and I picked up my performance, we can very easily.
This is such a big thing.
I know
like
that, like, I'm not
Yeah.
even, like, I've never in my life played volleyball, but I've watched games and been able to tell that, like, people are wrestling with that. And it's hard as, like, a spectator to be like, no, I love you. Like, it's okay.
It also makes it, like, the best sport ever, though.
Right.
Because it's this thing where there's 6 people on the court. There's more on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has put time and energy to win this game.
Yeah.
And the serve is coming at you alone, by yourself. There's a spotlight on you. Everyone on your team and everyone on the other team is watching just you pass that ball.
Yeah.
The pressure of that is, like, really hard to emphasize. Because, let's say in tennis, like, the serve is also coming at just you.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're the only athlete that's on your side. You have fans and coaches and stuff, but that's not the same. You have volleyball too. There's something different about having your teammates, and like if you pass that ball accurately, they're the next people that are going to touch that ball immediately, right?
Right.
But the pressure is so crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
But that, like, when you defeat those demons, it's so good. It's like the highest highs and highest lows, or lowest lows.
No, yeah, because your adrenaline can become so much higher in those moments of like great pressure that I can definitely see that.
We've definitely won and lost that battle too.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I would liken it like the team sport I think that's most like it is baseball, because like with basketball and football, usually you're guarding like a person, and so you're kind of like you're not always focused on who has the ball or who's shooting. Like you're kind of focused on like your responsibility. But like not all eyes are on you at all times.
Yeah.
Whereas in volleyball, like every time the ball comes to you, whether you're passing, you're setting, or you're hitting it, suddenly everyone is looking at you because they're not worried about like guarding a person or like their like responsibility in like the zone. Really, they're looking at you. Like they're watching what you're gonna do. So I think that like increases the pressure as opposed to, and like I think that's like baseball, because like when you step up to the plate in baseball,
it's like it's all all the attention is on you. I never thought about it like that, but
there's just so much, and this is still something that I think about. I haven't like found a conclusion about this fully, but there's so much to learn from that experience where all of these people are counting on you. You're doing something that's really challenging, and you're likely to make a mistake doing. It's very hard to get perfect passes or perfect sets,
right,
or perfect hits. And like finding peace in yourself that you aren't going to do it perfectly, even though everyone's counting on you, or that like you might be the reason your team loses, and it's like everyone knows that. Like
that is tough.
Managing that is something that all of us have had to deal with, and I don't think anybody's fully gotten over, but like I think we've gotten a lot better about it.
I mean, that was going to be my next question, is like, if that's really the crux of the game, is like, how do you deal with that mental component of knowing that you can lose it for your team? How do you overcome that?
Great question. Something we are.
I know that that's something they're actively like figuring out, but if you had to put an answer to it, or like currently kind of what's your approach?
So I look to other strong teams to see how they deal with this often.
Wise.
And what I found is no team has. I don't think I know a single team that's dealt with it perfectly. For example, a lot of A teams, a lot of the way people get over it is by just having an insane ego about one aspect of the sport. You know, like they might be a really like a good hitter, and so if they mess up a pass, they're like, oh, like I hate passing, blah blah blah.
Right. The only thing I do is hit
and then when they go up to hit the ball, they like bang it. And they're like, rah, 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 blah, 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 and they like make a huge deal out of it. Like, a lot of people have like a really, and it's like not a great thing, but you see a lot of teams do that. But even at the highest level, we went to go see the finals for the D1 men's volleyball.
Yeah.
And there's a really like popular player on Hawaii who was favored to win. That was the team that was favored to win that game. in this exact position, they were about to lose the game in like the fourth set, I think. And he got ace 3 times in a row because he lost the battle.
Man.
And he is a paid athlete at the highest level of the sport. And in that moment, he lost. And his entire team, the band that they flew out to Virginia from Hawaii, watched him shank 3 passes. Everyone else on the court that had put in their time and energy to win this could do nothing but watch the ball fly off his arms way into the stands.
That
3 straight times.
So tough.
And that was one of the most like powerful volleyball experiences for me. Because I watched this guy who everyone loves, who everyone thinks is amazing, almost an untouchable figure, just get beaten down in that moment.
In the same way that you've been beaten down.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, like it was really like, this is a universal thing. No one can escape this. Yeah. So I don't know, to get back to your question, I don't know that there is an answer to like defeat it.
Yeah.
It's just more accepting that that can happen and just trying to play your best and have fun despite it. Right.
Beautiful. Love that.
Thing I've noticed is that a lot of the really successful teams, they have an approach, at least at like the more casual level, or like the high school level. They have an approach that I actually don't like very much, which is kind of a big highs and lows approach, where they kind of ride the momentum and they get really, really hype and excited when things are going well. And then like this is what we saw happen with like UNC and like Tennessee. And when we see those good teams lose, they actually lose like a lot of the time. I feel like they lose very quickly in like quick succession. Like it's like 21-21 and then they lose 2 points and then the next 2 points are just over.
Yeah.
Like they lose 25-21. Yeah. They just and I think that's not a great approach. I think my approach since last year when I started, I think, really thinking about this when we got new people on the team and our team really started to solidify last year, is that like different individuals need a different approach. And it's really hard to do that and like make that into tangible action. But certain players, like when they hit the ball really well and they've done something really good, they need to be hyped up. Some players just need a high five. Some players need you to yell. And some players, even more importantly, some players when they make a mistake need that high five and need like, hey, you're good. Like, next point, let's go. Some players need a little bit firmer where it's like, hey, we got to go now. Like, this point, come on. And some players need you to not talk to them. Yeah. And identifying the ones that you cannot talk to.
Yeah, it's challenging.
It's challenging, and it's really hard to not want to talk to them because you want to uplift them. You want to be like, you're fine. It was one mistake. Let's get the next ball. You've got the next pass. Or, try going down the line next time, or like giving a tip or something. But you slowly learn that like you can't talk to them because that play every time you say something about a mistake that player just made, it's just making it spin in their head one more time.
What do you do to me when I'm making mistakes?
I think you're the type of person that you just need like a quick comment, and like honestly, I don't have to say much to you because you know what you did. A lot of this goes to like the newer people on the team who maybe haven't played volleyball or haven't played volleyball in a while or haven't played like competitively.
They like actually need a tip. Yeah,
where they need advice. A lot of time we'll just look at each other, sort of. Like I'll just be like, Quentin. If you do something stupid, I'll just be like, Quentin.
Yeah. I think I identify with that because like every time I make a mistake, I know what happened. Like I think I have more knowledge about the game than I have skill. So a lot of the time, like I will some people on the team will come tell me how to do that correctly, and I'm like, I know. Yeah. I didn't execute it correctly.
It's kind of the same with like Jay. Like Jay, I don't think really.
Waging war against them every time. I think
hopefully that.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I think Jay doesn't really need me to tell him what to do. And in fact, I've been happily surprised that Jay is actually taking on more responsibility and wanting to help with practice, which is awesome. because like I don't know everything. Obviously, I especially don't know everything about like defense or setting. But there are other players. Like, Keegan, I'm still.
That's you should talk about it. But he's got a really fascinating like wave of handling and dealing with these things, and that's like he's also in what I would consider maybe the hardest position mentally of any role in the game, which is the libero, and like he's in a really unique position, especially as, like the pressure being both a captain and a libero is very challenging.
And he takes it to heart. I've talked to my friends about this. Like if you were to compare it, I might like do something the purely task part of captain's job. Like this sounds bad. He cares more than I do. Like just because I think of our personality differences.
Yeah.
Like I care a lot about this team, and like I put in a lot of effort and I think a lot of love into the team. But like for Keegan, it is like emotionally fundamental.
Which is important, and like you would be deficient in that if you were the only captain. Yeah. And that's why Keegan's what we decide to do. Yeah. But so is your kind of level-headedness, you know.
Yeah. We've got a good cop, bad cop dynamic.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. But like in a good way.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, not in the actual cop way.
Where neither of them are cops.
Where we're both actually good people.
Yeah.
Where Keegan gets really emotional and will sometimes like yell or like he rides the wave. Whereas I am always trying to stay.
Yeah.
And you're right, like if I didn't have to, I would have to like artificially make myself ride more. Because
versus just watching him do it.
Yeah, because he does that and he's so good at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I haven't figured out Keegan because sometimes being like firm with Keegan and tough with Keegan and giving him tough love works, and then other times he just needs to like be taken out and just like have a minute.
Yeah.
Or because like he'll go through these phases where he'll have like a bad set or whatever, and you take him out like this is the dilemma that we have. I didn't even know like you keep a libero riding a streak, or
you let them fight the battle and like maybe win, or do you like pull them out so they don't have to fight the battle at all?
And let someone who's fresh fight the battle. And with Keegan, I actually found I think it's really hard to conceptualize because you would think like you want to keep the momentum going, you want to let them like fight through it, but Keegan sometimes does need like to be taken off because then he's like, I gotta get my shit together.
Yeah,
like he'll really process and then come back stronger.
He's good at doing it.
Yeah, I'll definitely like ask him. It is kind of relevant to what we're talking about, so. We'll see if there's a Keegan side to the discussion. Because I wanted to keep this episode a little shorter, I'm just gonna ask you.
I have a good time.
This is great.
I'm so happy to hear that.
What? How long has it been?
It's been about an hour.
Wow, really?
55 minutes, yeah.
That's fast.
But I wanted to ask. I asked all of my guests this: if you can leave the gunkies, the viewers, with a piece of advice, with a piece of information, with really any last thing that you want to say, volleyball or otherwise, what would you tell them? My 22.
Are you gonna go first?
That's a good question.
You answered it last time with shouting out W and Volley B.
I think I did that. That's kind of fun.
It's a really hard question. It's just a really hard question.
I get to leave the viewers with one thing.
One thing.
Do you have something in mind?
I have something.
Actually think about it this time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I would say, like, kind of going on the theme with the episode is, like, find your community. Find your people, because at the end of the day, like like feminine volley B. I've been at like dark places. And sometimes that's it's different things. When you find people who are so willing to be open with their love, you forsake that for anything.
That's so beautiful. I love that. That was really good.
Like I could be on the A team right now, and I would not be as happy of a person as I am.
There's something so beautiful and rich in that. If you say something stupid,
I mean, it's hard. Because there's a lot that
yeah.
What I'm thinking is, who am I talking to?
Because
I don't know.
that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's hard to say one thing that so many different people can take something from. Graham did a great job.
Sometimes if the thing that's like really in your heart that you're thinking about a lot is only applicable to one person, maybe that one person needs to hear it. And if it's hogwash to everyone else, then... Well,
what I want to say, I think, that will, I hope, apply to everybody, is I want to say thank you to people that have sat here
and listened to us talk for so long about something that's probably not
them at all.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that says something about the viewer who is either invested enough in Runky's Room to do this or loves one of us three enough to want to watch this.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing. And
absolutely.
I think as the viewer, you can think about the fact and feel good about the fact that you just spent a lot of your time on something that's like both growth for you because you're learning something, but also selfless and a loveless and a loving thing.
That is so true. I cannot emphasize that enough because that is truly like the message of Runky's Room, and that's why the audience is like so disjoint. Like there's not really like a cohesive like demographic that listens because the point of Runky's Room, and I've said this before to people who I've had as guests, but like the point of it is that I really believe, like one of my most fundamental beliefs is that everyone has experienced something or has some knowledge that is genuinely so important and beautiful and deserves to be heard. And that's why these episodes range from being about volleyball to being about the Fourth Amendment to all these kinds of different things that no like one viewer other than me has in common. So for people who do genuinely listen to every episode and not just the ones with the people that they know,
even
like,
if they've taken the time to do that.
Yeah, I mean that in itself is something that like if you're watching this just because you know one of us and like wanted to hear our voices, like that's such a beautiful thing. Like that's a really loving gesture. So
and I think like this is great timing.
Yes.
I think people should be proud. I said enough already. I guess we should probably. Yeah.
Yes, but would you like to say anything?
You guys want to say hi to the podcast?
Sure, hello. Hi. I don't know that we can hear you, but it's fine. We actually came just as it's ended.
Wisdom.
If you have it to say.
I kind of lost my train of thought. I just want to say that I think that everybody watching should be proud of themselves, and if they've gotten to this point in this, some aspect of what you're doing is right. Yeah. Like you're on the right track somewhere.
That is so true. Yeah. Like, also subscribe.
Yeah, do that as well.
Would anyone like to say anything? You have to like really hold the cord in there, but.
Oh yeah, I think it's.
Hello. I like cats and I'm here.
I know he hasn't made an appearance so far. Yeah.
Little guy. Oh, you hear that?
He did peep a little bit.
Oh, hello. This is the little beast Sesame.
This
He's
is
12
Sesame.
weeks old. He is
He
very
blends
sweet.
in with the couch.
He's very sweet, and he's new to the household. Hi.
The people who stayed all the way to the end got this.
This is the gift.
Special surprise. Like
Look
this
how
is
tiny
a gift
he
just
is.
for you.
He's a tiny little beast. But
People
he's
who cooked
so
up aren't even gonna know
fun.
about it. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of Runky's Room. I love all my Gunkies. Goodbye.